Today, Dr. Aku talks about the excuses that get in the way of change. Greetings! I'm Dr. Aku, and I just want to welcome you to Talk to Me Tuesday. I am so excited to be here to talk with you. It is January 8th, 2019, and our topic is change. It's January, the beginning of 2019, and everyone is thinking about New Year's resolutions, how they're going to make 2019 a different year. It's all about change. So let's start with the quote for the week. Okay, let's see. Can you see that? All right. Do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. If you want something different, you have to do something different. Guess who said that? That's right. I said that, Dr. Aku. So I like to start out by telling you a little secret, something that you don't know about me. Okay, the reality is you might know this about me, or you might have guessed. This secret is I have a superpower. My superpower is I'm a change agent. That's right. I help people make changes. I always knew that I would be a helper or a healer, right? I was born to be a helper or a healer. And someday I'll tell you some stories about my childhood that made it very clear that I was going to be a helper or a healer. But when I took my first class in psychology in high school, Brooklyn Tech, anybody from Brooklyn Tech? Woohoo! When I took my first psychology class, I knew it. I was hooked. I knew that I wanted to help people with the mind. Why? Because it all starts with the mind. Every change you make, every decision you make, who you want to be, all comes from how we think. So let me tell you a little story about one of the people I helped with my superpower, being a change agent. Okay, I'm not going to give her a name, but I'll tell you that I worked with her individually. She was a school teacher, a preschool teacher, and she loved the kids. She loved teaching the children, and she knew she was gifted at it. However, she didn't like the school she was working in very much, and she really felt like she was underpaid. She needed to make more money. We talked about it, and she came up with every excuse in the book for not going back to school. Right? She thought that if she went back to school and she got some additional certifications, that she could be a different kind of teacher. It's called a SEAT teacher, somebody that works one-on-one with special needs children instead of having to be responsible for a whole classroom. When she found out that those teachers actually make more money and have more flexibility, she loved the idea. However, she was really afraid. And one of her major excuses was that it would take too long. You know, it would take her a long time to go back to school to get recertified. Now, and that is a major excuse. So what did I do with her? I told her this little story that I got from one of my favorite authors and mentors, even though I actually never met the man and he's no longer with us, but Dr. Wayne Dyer, who was also a psychologist like I am and has written many self-help books just like I have. I've modeled some of my writing after him because he's also was very spiritually grounded. And in his book, Excuses Be Gone, which is one of my favorites, and I highly recommend it if you have excuses that are getting in the way of you achieving what you want to achieve. In his book, he writes down this little story. And so I shared this story with her. And the story, it's very short. It goes kind of like this. Somebody else was working with a woman who said she wanted to go back to school and to get her degree, but she thought she was too old. So the doctor asked her, well, how old are you? And she said, I'm 45. And oh, by the way, this is my version of the story. I think I've changed a few details, but it's the gist of it. He asked her, how old are you? She says, I'm 45. And he asked her, well, how old will you be if you go back to school and get your degree? How old will you be in 5 years after you've done that? She said, I'll be 50. So then the doctor asked her, how old will you be if you don't go back to school and you don't get that degree? How old will you be in 5 years? And she said, I'll be 50. And basically, the point is that whether she went back to school or not, 5 years from now, she'd be 50. Who did she really want to be in 5 years? Did she want to be somebody who had a degree? Or did she still want to be somebody who didn't have a degree? So once again, I highly recommend the book, Excuses Be Gone. And let's talk a little bit about a few more excuses. So number one excuse, it'll take too long. Well, yeah, things do take time, but we have time, right? And as long as we have time, why not use it to reach our dreams? Another major excuse that I hear all the time, and I have to admit, every once in a while I've fallen into this one myself, is I can't afford it. But the reality is, and I want you to think about this for just a minute, the reality is we spend money on the things that we value. Right? I had this conversation with somebody else. I'm not going to tell you. This is actually somebody in my family. So I'm not going to say who this is, but if she's listening, she'll recognize this conversation. And we were talking about going to the doctor, and she was saying, oh my gosh, this doctor that she wanted to go to wasn't covered by insurance, and it would cost like $700. And then later on in the same conversation, when she was saying no, she didn't want to pay that much, she started talking about going antiquing and finding this really beautiful chest that cost $350. And without blinking, she was talking about how she was planned to buy this thing that cost $350, but yet the idea of spending $700 on health was ridiculous. Right? So a lot of this is about how we think about things. And the reality is that we can find the money if it's something we value. But if it isn't something we value, or if we let fear get in the way, then we either block our ability to make the money we need for whatever the venture is, or we focus on other things, and then we keep the money from being there. So that's excuse number two. We don't have the money. Can't afford it. Excuse number three, it will be difficult. I actually just had a conversation with somebody today. One of the things I do is I'm a consultant at a school. And the young person I was talking to today said that they want to be a pediatrician. Makes good sense. Again, another healer. Wonderful. But the problem is this person is not passing the classes that they're in right now. They have some learning challenges. And what I said to them was, yeah, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to study outside of regular class time. But you know what? There are a lot of things in life that are difficult. Writing a book's not easy. It's difficult. But again, it's about what we value and about not letting fear get in the way. So I truly believe that if the student so chooses, that they can face the difficulty, and I'm there. I'm ready to help them, to hold this person's hand and help them understand their learning style so that we can find methods of studying that'll work better for him. However, he's got to first push past the idea that it's going to be too difficult, because the idea that something is going to be difficult, or really the excuse that it'll be too difficult, is something that blocks your ability to embrace it and just do the work. You know? And one of my favorite words in the English language is tenacity. Now, do you know what that word means, tenacity? It means being able to continue going no matter what obstacles get in your way. And I love that word because I find that that is really what makes people successful, having tenacity. Much more than having brilliance. Brilliance is helpful, and certainly it makes things a little faster and easier, but the people who are most successful are the ones that never give up, that approach those obstacles and figure out how to get past them, over them, around them, through them, but don't let them stop. So remember that, tenacity. Okay, excuse number 4 that we're going to talk about today is I'm too busy. Well, I can tell you now, and anybody who knows me knows this is true. I am a very busy person. In this first week of the year, I have already done a workshop on Saturday for 103 people, teaching them about adolescent development. I am doing Facebook Live today after working this morning, consulting, and I have a few people that I'll be working with for the rest of the evening. I have meetings tomorrow. Thursday, I am doing a workshop at a local library all about cultivating inner peace. And then Friday night, I am speaking to another group about adolescent development. And Saturday, I have a full day of working one-on-one with people. That's how, oh, wait, did I mention that I'm a wife and a mother of a school-age child? Did I mention all those things? So I could definitely tell you, I am busy. And one of the things that I know is that it's really about balancing things, but being too busy is also not a good excuse for not getting things done. Being as busy as I am, all those things I mentioned has not stopped me from publishing 7 books so far and finishing up number 8 right now. Number 8 will be ready by the end of the month. I'm so excited. Oh yeah, so since I mentioned that, let me tell you. Book number 8 is titled Cultivating Inner Peace, a Sustainable System for the Professional Black Woman. And that'll be published by the end of the month in the middle of me doing all the workshops I just told you. So being too busy, not an excuse. All right, so we talked about 4 excuses. Of course, you know, there are many more, but we only have a half an hour together, so I can't spend all my time telling you excuses. And did I finish the story about this woman? I didn't think so. So let me finish that story. So her major excuse was that it would take too long. And I told her that story. And then I had to go and read Wayne Dyer's book because I think it's just an excellent book. And we worked through it together. It took probably about a year of working with her one-on-one before she was ready. A year of confronting her excuses and talking through them. And what happens if it snows? And how will I be able to get there? And what about the money? How will I find the money? Which she did find, by the way. She didn't have to take out loans. She was able to make it happen. But how will I find the money to do this? And what about the time? All those excuses. So about a year later, she was ready. And she went to school. And she did very well in school. And it took her a little less time than she originally thought it would to finish the program because she didn't have to take a whole program. She was already a licensed teacher. She just had to take the classes she was missing so she could get recertified. So it was actually easier than she anticipated. And then she took the licensing exam that she needed. And you know what? Everything new. There were a few bumps in the road. Everything didn't go perfectly. It took her a little longer to get her license than she thought it would. And it took her a little longer to get a new job than she thought it would. But the last time I talked to her, she had a new job, which she absolutely loved. Loved. She had more flexibility than she ever had before because now she was working for herself on her own schedule. She had a caseload and she got to travel a little bit more, and she made a lot more money working few hours with fewer responsibilities and less paperwork than she used to. Right? And she said to me, Dr. Aku, I am so happy that you helped me move past all my excuses to make this happen, because if you hadn't, I would have still been teaching at the same place, making the same little bit of money, and nothing would have changed. So all that to say is I want you to think about your excuses. I want you to tell me about your excuses. Why are you not doing what you dream of doing in 2019? Let's find a way to help you move past them. Wayne Dyer in his book makes a suggestion that you take your excuse and ask yourself some questions. So let's talk about that. The first one is it true? You know, is it true that you don't have the time or the money, or it will be difficult? Is that really true? Most of the time when we make such excuses, it's from fear. And the reality is that If we put a little effort into it, we can find the time. We can find the money. Um, we can find a way to do it even if it is difficult, right? So the first question to ask yourself is it true? The next one is, where did this excuse come from, right? And I can tell you, most of the time, that excuse comes from fear. But, it may come from somewhere else. But the point is really to ask yourself that question. So you're focusing on, why are you making these excuses? Why are you putting obstacles in your own way to keep you from achieving your dreams? Where did the excuse come from? The third question is, what's the payoff? Okay? What's the payoff for the excuse, right? Why do you make this obstacle for yourself? What do you get back from it? And the payoff very often is that you don't have to push yourself out of your comfort zone, that you get to stay where you are. And, very interesting thing about human psychology is that very often, even when we know we're not in the best circumstances, we will stay there because we fear change, because we don't know what to expect on the other side. And the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. I think that's how that saying goes. And so sometimes we just stay where we are and stay put because it's comfortable, because it's familiar, not because we know it's the best thing for us, not because it's really what we want, but because it's familiar. So it's important to think about, what's the payoff? What are you really getting from this excuse? All right, the next one. What would life look like if I couldn't use these excuses? Okay, that's the question from Dr. Wayne Dyer. What would life look like if I could not use these excuses? Imagine if money were not an issue. Imagine if things were not difficult. What would that be like? And that's one way of helping you tap into your ability to dream, because all things start with a dream. Somebody had to dream the idea of a chair before it was created. Somebody had to dream the idea of the desk that my computer's resting on before it was created. Everything comes from thought first. So that really helps you tap in to this ability to think about, well, what would things be like if these excuses weren't true? The next thing is, can I create a rational reason to change? Okay. So that's really challenging, starting to challenge this excuse. Can you create a rational reason to change? And I really help this person that I work with look at all the rational reasons why this made sense to make this change, how it wouldn't help her in the long run to continue working at a job that didn't pay her sufficient money, how that wasn't the best course for her future, and a whole bunch of other things in terms of just being rational. As I said before, I think one of her excuses is, well, how will I get to school if it snows? Because she drove and she didn't like to drive in bad weather. Well, none of us like to drive in bad weather, but what did the rest of us do when we have to go to work? And what did she do when she had to go to work when it snowed, right? You have choices in that matter, right? You either go in the snow anyway, or you stay home, you have somebody else drive you, but all those same possibilities were available. But did it really make a lot of sense? Was it really rational to be worried about the snow in August and September when you're registering for school? Not so much. Not to mention that most universities cancel classes if the snow is too bad, right? Or most professors understand, and we're all allowed to have one or two classes that we don't go to, no matter what program we're in. Okay, so can I create a rational reason to change? Is the next question. Moving on. Can I access universal cooperation and shedding old habits? Now, I like that one. As I said, one of the things I loved about Wayne Dyer is that not only was he a psychologist, just like myself, but he was also spiritually grounded, like I am also. So I use the word spirit more than the universe, but same idea. The question is, can I access universal cooperation, right? Can I ask Spirit to help me shed my old habits? Can I ask Spirit to help me move forward in past these excuses? And so one of the things that I teach and help people with, and one of the things that I'll be showing people in the workshop that I am conducting in a couple weeks, the Beyond the Resolution workshop, is how to harness spiritual strength to help you make changes in old habits. How to do that exactly? So that's the question. The question from Wayne Dyer is, can I use universal cooperation? And one of the things that I show people based on my superpower as a change agent is how to actually harness the universe, how to actually harness spiritual energy to help you change those habits. All right. Wayne Dyer's final question, number 7, is how do I consciously reinforce this new way of being? Right? How do you, so now this is assuming that you have pushed past your fear. You have asked the universe to support you in changing things. So now you have to reinforce things, right? Habits take a time to really be a part of you. And you are changing from doing things one way to doing things another way. So how do you reinforce that? That's one of the things that we're also going to talk about in my Beyond the Resolution class, is how do you make sure that you have the support you need to continue moving forward to create your dreams for 2019. Okay. I like to move beyond the 7 questions that Wayne Dyer suggested, and moving beyond them, I also add, how could and would I do, well, sorry, not how, what could and would I do if I did not allow fear to get in my way? What could and would I do if I did not allow fear to get in my way? And I think that's such an important question because, again, for most of us, the reason why we make these excuses is because of fear. So if we can focus on opening up the possibility of what our worlds would look like if we did not allow fear to get in our way, then that also gives us the opportunity to really bring to our minds that vision of what we can do. Just like that question, what would life be like if you went back to school 5 years from now? It really allows us to think about, oh, do we really want to make that change? So, what changes do you want to make in 2019? What are your dreams for 2019? How are you going to change this year to make it a bigger, better year than ever before? I look forward to helping you as a change agent and creating that change in 2019. I hope you join me for the Beyond the Resolution class, where we'll be talking about how to harness spiritual energy, how to make sure that you have the support you need to continue changing beyond January, because January is just where it starts. It starts with the intentions we declare, the resolutions we make at the beginning of the year, but then we have to make it through to December, to where things are actually different. So I look forward to helping you make that difference. Okay, well, with all that being said, I'm so happy that I got to share with you this first time on Facebook Live, talking about change for the month of January and Talk to Me Tuesdays with Dr. Aku. I look forward to talking more about change and sharing more of my secret power of being a change agent with you next week, Tuesday at 5 p.m. Have a fabulous week, and I look forward to hearing from you about all of your resolutions for 2019. For more information, please visit drakhu.com, DRAKHU.com.